So welcome back. Yesterday, you guys used the slope-intercept form of an equation, y equals mx plus b, to write a lot of linear equations. Today we're going to continue writing those linear equations, but we're going to write equations using the point-slope formula. So these are two things you're definitely going to want to have in your notes. If we're talking about slope-intercept form, we're talking about y equals mx plus b. When we're talking about point-slope form, or the point-slope formula, that's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And what you notice, the big difference between the two equations is in the point-slope form there is no b value, there's no y-intercept. And so that's when we're going to use the point-slope formula. Slope-intercept is by far the easier formula. If you're given the slope and a y-intercept, use y equals mx plus b, write that equation, get it done. But in situations where you're not given a y-intercept, we have to do a little bit more work. We have to use our point-slope formula, and then we use our point-slope formula to transition into slope-intercept. So let's look at our first example here. When we're using the point-slope formula, we're going to be answering questions such as this. Write the equation of the line with a slope of 3 going through the point -2, 5. So we're given a point and a slope. Again, it's not just a clever name. The point-slope formula, it's pretty direct. You're given a point, you're given a slope, come up with the equation of the line. So in order to do that, we look at our formula. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. The thing that confuses people many times is that y and the x versus the y1 and x1. What you need to realize, basically from here on out in most math classes, if you see a y sub 1 or an x sub 1, that's telling you that you're going to substitute in x sub 1 and y in y sub 1. Where you see just a y and just an x, when you think about our traditional form of our equation, y equals mx plus b, we want an x in our answer. We want a y in our answer. So that y and that x are going to stay there. You're going to substitute in place of y sub 1 and y sub 1 and x sub 1. So when you look at the first step, as we substitute in to our formula, we get y minus 5 equals 3 times the quantity x minus -2. Now most of you aren't going to write that step minus -2. I'm just writing it to show it this first time. I won't write it in the future either. When you look at x minus -2, we can go down to the next step then and see I've simply rewritten the parenthesis as x plus 2. So if you're plugging a negative into this formula, because the formula says minus, when you're plugging a negative in, it actually changes to a plus. So in the future, we'll just start at y minus 5 equals 3 times the quantity x plus 2. Once you've substituted into the formula, it's just a little basic algebra to get to our solution. We go ahead and distribute the 3, giving us 3x plus 6. And then we want y equals, so we get rid of the minus 5 by adding 5 to the other side, giving us y equals 3x plus 11. So basically what we're doing here is we're using the point-slope formula to find that y-intercept. We're taking the problem, plugging it into our formula, and then solving it for y so that we end up with an equation in slope-intercept form. But we're using the point-slope formula to get there. Let's look at another example where you have a fraction for your slope. In this case, our fraction of 1/3 for a slope, and we're going through the point 6 comma -2, nothing changes when you do fractions. We plug in our y value, we plug in our x value, and we plug in our slope. So if you look at the work here, we have y plus 2 equals 1/3 times x minus 6. And again, that was a -2 in the problem, so when I plugged it into the formula, it became a plus 2. Also, you'll see there I wrote the formula. I'm going to be writing that on every page here just so you're familiar with seeing it over and over and over again. So from here, once you're into the formula, every problem will be done the exact same way. You distribute and you move over. So we distribute the 1/3, giving us 1/3 x. And then 1/3 times 6 times that -6 is -2. We need to be familiar with our fraction shortcuts. If you can divide the 6 by 3, you can just quickly do 6 divided by 3 times 1, giving us 2. So then we have y plus 2 equals 1/3 x minus 2. We have to minus the 2 over to the other side, giving us our equation y equals 1/3 x minus 4. We're putting our equation into slope-intercept form because we're comfortable with that. We've used that many times, and now we could graph that equation comfortably if we needed to. Our final example is going to add one more step, writing a linear equation from 2 points. So if you're given these 2 points, -4, 5, and -2, -1, and you're asked to write the linear equation of the line that goes through those 2 points, you notice we now have a problem. We look at our formula, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. We can't plug 2 points into that formula. What we need is a slope in order to be able to do that. So a slope can be calculated easily from 2 points. We know how to do that. So we simply look at our 2 points and we say to go from 5 to -1, our y values is a change of -6 or down 6. And to go from -4 to -2, our x value, our change in x, is a positive 2. So therefore our slope is -6 over 2, which is -3. Now if you look at the bottom of your screen, you see that there's a red line separating 2 separate pieces of work. I've looked at my formula, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, and I've realized we have a problem. I have 2 points. Which one do I use? Well, what we're going to discover in the end here is it's not going to matter. But if you look at the work, on the first problem on the left side, I used the point -2, -1, and plugged in y plus 1 equals -3 times x plus 2. And guess what? From there, everything's the same. I distribute, and I move over. That will always be how we solve those problems. And we end up with y equals -3x minus 7. Now if you look on the right, I use the point -4, 5. When I plug in y minus 5 equals -3 times x plus 4, I distribute, I move over. When I do that work, I get the exact same equation because those 2 points are on the same line. They have the same slope. You will get the same equation when you plug them both in. So tomorrow we'll do a lot of practice here using the point slope formula. Good luck, and we'll see you in class tomorrow.